Hey there neighbors, Kevin here with eTrailer, and today we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install the Furrion Chill Cube Thermostat here on our 2005 Skyline Aljo travel trailer. You are one of the many people who purchased the Furrion Chill Cube for its amazing cooling abilities, and now it's getting a little bit closer to that fall time and you're really ready to actually be able to use your furnace as well. Then you're going to need the Chill Cube Thermostat. This is going to be a specific fit. This is not going to be something that you can just kind of mix and match like you could previously with older AC units. This is a one thermostat only situation here, and what this is going to come with is our actual thermostat that we see here, and then on a little module that we're going to mount up inside of our rooftop unit just up in here, which we can easily see by just popping out our little cover here. So just this little gray box right up here is all we're going to see inside. It's going to have a plug-in connector on one end, and then the other end is just going to be 4 bare wires that we need to run over to our thermostat. So in most cases you're going to be swapping out another thermostat. You can just reuse those wires as long as it's going to have enough. So in our case we needed 6 wires, 4 for our communication and our power and ground. And then we also had 2 more. We have a power and ground that run over to our furnace, and that's how we're actually going to turn that on. So 6 wires in total. Now if you have wiring coming out into your rooftop AC unit and then you have wiring going over to your thermostat, maybe it's not enough. Maybe you don't have 6 there. You can tape on a bundle of wire and then just use that to pull it through, so that way you can get it over to the other side, make your installation a little bit easier. Now this is going to function just like every other thermostat out there. We've got our power to turn it on and off. We've got our mode, so we can roll through our modes here. Starting off, it'll be auto each time. From there, cool, dry mode, and then heat. So that's actually what's turning on our furnace. With it being so warm already right now, our furnace isn't going to kick on, so we'll just skip past that. While you're in auto mode, your fan mode isn't going to actually function because it's already set to that auto speed. So if we switch back down to cool, I can actually control my fan speed. I can control my temperature with our up and down arrows. We've got our sleep mode. We've got turbo, which is going to kick up that fan speed and really help cool down our trailer. Say we're just getting to the campsite, it's Friday night, and our trailer's been sitting out in the sun all day. Hit that on, cool it down real quick. We've also got a timer so that we can change your time settings, as well as add in a timer when we want this to kick off. Now, next to that, it's also going to be gear mode. So when gear pops up, you can see it says 75%. And then 50%, that's just your energy reduction, so that way you're only using 75% or 50% of its full potential, so that way you can kind of cut down on that energy if you're using an inverter. Maybe you're at a boondocking setup and you just really want to conserve it and only use it as needed. So that's what they installed there for you, so you can have a little bit easier of a trip and still have that AC. Another nice feature that Furrion did was they moved the temperature sensor down to below here. See that little bulb sticking out at the bottom? That is our sensor now. So prior to that, our sensor used to be tucked up inside of our rooftop unit, and the problem with that is a lot of cool air or hot air can get trapped up inside of there, and then that's going to give us an inaccurate temperature reading, which then is going to have our AC unit either kick on when we don't want it to, or not kick on when we need it to. So having that down below in the same area that we're going to be kind of hanging out in, and where there's a little bit more airflow versus up here where it might just kind of get stuck, is a little bit nicer, so that way you can really make sure that you're getting an accurate reading. As far as installation goes, it's pretty simple. It's a plug-in connector on one side and then just wiring that's going to run between that module and our thermostat here. So the big thing is really just checking what you already have in place. So if you pop off your old thermostat and you see that you got at least 6 wires there, you're going to be good to go. If not, then you're going to want to go pick up at least 6 or 7 jacketed wire, and this is pretty low gauge. I mean, this is something around like 22. This isn't something where you're spending a lot of money. This should be relatively cheap to get. And then what I did in the past is just tape on to my existing wire and then pull that through. I'd probably start up at the rooftop unit and pull it down, but obviously that's going to really be dependent on your trailer and how things are set up. A lot of time they hide stuff in the walls to where you have zero access to it. So like right now, if I was having to trace those wires through and I couldn't just pull them previously, I'd be tearing out this wall here. So easiest way, like I said, is just tape and pull through if you need to get those wires in. But other than that, this install is super simple. If for whatever reason you are just having problems with it, maybe you just don't want to deal with it, and you know you got a trip coming up and need to get this done, please feel free to use our dealer locator, and you can enter in your zip code to find a shop near you and get it professionally installed. If you are wanting to do this yourself, then stick around and I'll walk you through the process. Starting off our install, we are going to need to be able to get up into our rooftop unit, so we are going to take a few pieces down from our air distribution box, and we have our AC running right now. I'm actually going to turn that off since I am going to be messing with it. This little cover right here, you're going to have two tabs you can just press on to pop it right out, and then when it comes to the wire one, you're going to want to kind of pull down a little bit. It's these two tabs right here that it's catching on. So if you can push it through that, then you can pop it right on out. Now, when I did this install months ago, I had left all the thermostat wires kind of just in here. I need to kind of search around and figure out where they were poking out. I think this might be it right here too. So it's kind of pinched in my stuff here. I'm going to pop the 4 screws that hold our air distribution box cover in place. So there's going to be 2 over here, 2 right here. We will get all 4 of those out. This down. Oh, catching on something here. There we go. And that's also going to reveal our plug-in for our thermostat. So what's going to happen is we'll have this little guy right here. It's going to plug right in, and it's going to clip on to this little space right here. Maybe it's over a little bit, but it's essentially going to clip right into our spot here and live inside of our rooftop unit up in our opening here. Clicks in, and then we're going to run our thermostat wires to here. We'll have 4 wires, which are all nicely labeled. We got red as our 12 volt power, green as our ground. Our communication wire B is going to be blue, and then communication wire A is going to be purple. So we just need to make sure that we're matching that up when we get over to our thermostat. Well, I have fished out my thermostat wires. The other thing we're going to look at is our thermostat from our original one. I already popped the cover off, which I got right here. So if you have an old style Dometic duotherm unit, you can just pull straight out on this. It'll pop right off. There's going to be 2 screws holding it in place, and then here is all of our wiring. So the one thing that's tripping me up here is we've got furnace only coming to our thermostat. This wire is not being used over on the other end. So there must be a separate connection somewhere that we're not seeing for our furnace to send power to it, because this is getting power and then sending power out to the furnace. So we're gonna take a picture. I already did one just showing us what each one of these are actually being used for at the current moment, so that way when we go to do everything else we kind of have a baseline of what we should go with. So I'm going to take these 2 screws out. We'll get this disconnected. I'm also going to use a little tiny screwdriver to pop each one of these wires out too. Alright, there we go. Got our communication wires down. And I'm going to set this aside. Pulled down the junction box. I had a few wires hidden in there as well. So we have our communication for our furnace. That's what I was looking for. So I got power and ground. I'm going to tie that into 2 of the wires on our thermostat side, so that way it can communicate. And then over here I also got just 12 volt positive and ground, and that's just because the old units typically you'd have 110 plus 12 volt separately coming in and powering it. It wouldn't have just the setup like we do with our Chill Cube where it's just 110 coming in and then it's converting that to handle the 12 volt loads as well. So with that being said, I'm going to peel back some of this tape, and I'm also going to tuck our 12 volt constant and ground up out of the way. We'll get our junction box back in place, and then we can start butt connectoring together all the wires that we need to, so that way we can send all of our information between our main unit over to our thermostat. Now I've got this a little bit cleaned up. I've tucked away the 12 volt power and ground that we had there, put my junction box back up, and I've got my wires all ready to go here. So I've written out exactly what I want to do. So all the wire colors and then what their functions are going to be, so that way there's no confusion later on. I'm going to start splicing these together. Now with the thermostat, we're going to have 4 of the wires that we're just going to be connecting right up to it, and then on our furnace we'll have 2 more that we'll need to connect to as well. So I'm going to be using a total of 6 butt connectors, and for this wire gauge I'm just using the little pinks. So we'll get these casings stripped back just a bit. Alright, so I'm keeping like for like, at least for our furnace. So I'm going to go white to white. Give that a little tug. That one's good. And red for red. And then I'm going to tape over that too, give that a little bit more stability, and then we can start going over our other ones too. Alright, I'm going to be using yellow on our thermostat wire for my 12 volt power. So I'm going to hook that up to the red. Blue to blue. Brown to purple. Purple is one of our other communication wires. I'm going to do green to green for our grounds. Alright, I'm going to wrap that up in some electrical tape as well. Now I've got this all wired up. I'm going to start connecting stuff here. I'm going to put my air distribution box cover back on, and then we'll work our way back over to the thermostat wiring. This little plug right here, coming out towards the center, is for our new thermostat. Click those together. And then we're just reattaching the same wires that we had before. So pretty simple. You can see it's got power again. Now for this little module here, we're going to be clipping it on here, so you can see it's got 2 little tabs and then 1 tab at the bottom. It just hangs there. I've been trying to see if there's any real like thing for it to not be able to move or anything like that, but there's nothing really that it's clicking into aside from just this little wire holder right here. That'd probably be the best way to kind of keep this from moving. Yeah, once we get that in, then we'll push this up. We'll have some wires to tuck up too. So as you're putting this in, you're going to kind of have to fight some stuff. Just make sure you don't pinch anything as you're putting it back in place. We'll have our last cover to pop in. Just clicks right into place. Now we can move over to the thermostat. I'm going to pull the back off here so you can take a little bit closer of a look. We've got our terminals for all of our wiring. You can see it's got BA 12 volt ground, furnace. Over here on the left though is our dip switches. So this isn't as relevant of a thing right now, but with prior systems where there was heat pumps and heat strips, you would need to adjust your dip switches accordingly so that way it would function properly with those separate heating elements. Now in our case, we have it set so that this is going to function with the furnace, but it's not going to go with a heat pump or a heat strip just because there isn't one currently for the Chill Cube yet. So if you are having to adjust them, you can see they're numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, and then on up top, off at the bottom. So really easy to kind of go through there. Most thermostat manuals are going to show you what situation you should have those up or down in, so that way you can make sure you have everything properly set. Now when it comes to actually mounting this up, if you look at it, this is a little bit crooked on the back, the little template here that we have to attach to. So what I typically want to do is just kind of find that angle, figure out how I want this to sit, and I'll usually mark it on the wall with a pencil first just so I kind of know what boundaries I need to be in. Then I'll take this off and then get this to sit right too. So another thing you could do is take a little piece of painter's tape and then mark what's the bottom here, so that way you can orient it right, get it screwed in using the two mounting holes we got, and you can see that these are slotted, so it's best to go in the center, so that way you got a little bit of wiggle room to kind of move it back and forth with. But I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to get this marked so that we have the center on this, and then we can get this all up here. I just took a pencil actually instead of the painter's tape, and I marked center at the bottom and top here. Now we're going to drill through. I had to stop for a second though. Normally I want to go kind of in the middle so I get a little bit more room to work with on that slot, but there is a black vent pipe for our black tank right behind this wall here, so I got to be pretty far out actually. At least with that one, so that way we don't end up hitting our pipe. This side, I'm going to go right in the center. Don't drop my screw. Give a little test. Fine with that. If we wanted to, we could pop it back off and readjust our screws. I might actually pull it just slightly more down. Right there. A lot happier with that. All right, now it's just connection time. I am going to trim these back just a little bit. These are pretty long. We don't need that much wire because this is just a tiny little terminal we're going to be poking those into. So I'm going to trim those all down, and then we'll start putting those into their respective terminals. Here is the temperature sensor. We're going to talk about it later. It's in here instead of just the one that is up in the rooftop unit, and this one is going to take precedence over the one that's up there. So whenever this is installed, this is now the temperature sensor that it uses. Putting in our wires, and my furnace is the first one I'm going to start with. I've got red for power, white for ground. You can hear the furnace just kicked on there because I'm adding power to it. This one's just binding up on me. Get that a little bit straighter. All right, we're just going to push in our wires. We've got B as blue. Let's get that up in there. Now with such a small wire gauge, this does want to fight you trying to go in. There we go, that one's in. For A, we have brown. Oh. Make sure you do a little tug test too. If it pops out, then you know you don't have a good connection. You need to redo it. Might even kind of press in on this just a bit, just to help it out. There we go. All right, 12 volt power we've got as yellow, so we'll bring that down. Once again, I am going to press on this just because our wire gauge is so thin. Next is ground. All right, all those are good. Now we can switch over to our furnace. First one on the furnace there is ground. Oops, sorry, I got my hand in the way. And finally, we got our power for our furnace. Right there, furnace just kicked on, telling us that it's working. We'll need to adjust our settings here. Come on. There we go. We restored power to the trailer now, and we can see our thermostat working just fine. We're in auto mode. That's just the first setting once you turn this on. So if we actually really wanted to change anything up besides just the temperature, like in auto mode, you can switch the temperature, which here, let's put it to 72. So our unit was set at 65. If we look over at our air distribution box, it just switched over to from 65 up to 72. So we are getting communication between the two. It is functioning how it should. Let's put that back. Actually, we'll put it like 68. Now, if we wanted to actually change some other settings or switch our mode, we want to hit the mode button, come down, we can put it into cool. Our furnace isn't going to work for us just yet, just because it's too hot right now. It's supposed to be about low to mid 40s for the morning tomorrow, so we're going to camp it out tonight, and then in the morning we can get a little bit more action here showing you the furnace in use too. But for right now, we'll just keep it in cool, and that's going to do it for the install. That's going to do it for our look at and installation of the Chill Cube Thermostat from Furrion here on our 2005 Skyline RV Aljo travel trailer. My name's Kevin, and if you still have some questions about the thermostat here, or you just need help getting it installed, please feel free to reach out to us via our Ask the Experts link, a comment on this video, or a phone call to our customer service department, and we'd be happy to help you out on your journey.